first question is why is it changed? It's like, well, we had to because of compliance, but sometimes it won't matter. Sometimes they'll say it's big enough of a change that you need to go back to council for them to stamp the new set of plans, and that's a disaster.
G'day guys, welcome to the MTDC Lounge. This is a podcast that breaks down everything you need to know about designing and building your ultimate home and what to expect. Whether you're a DIY renovator, a budding developer, or everything in between, we'll dive into the building journey, touching on what to expect, what's next, and how to go about it. We'll hear from a heap of experienced consultants and trades about all aspects. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to the Lounge. G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the MTDC Lounge. I've got the fan favourite Mitch tonight, and we're here to talk about our process in pre-submission plans or DA sets of plans, and how we go about it at MT Design, and things to watch out for and things to work on.
Yeah, I think we'll go through the importance of a pre-submission plan set, what needs to be on there, and I guess what should be on there to almost make sure you're capturing things for later on or flagging things before we get too far into council and or even the builders.
As the steps have gone through from the start to now, what we've tried to drum into, the podcast and all of our clients is the things that we have to watch out for and the things that we snap up before we get to the DA stage. By the time we get to the DA stage, we should know the problems that the council are going to have or the things that are going to flag. Any designer or drafting team should have that information available to them prior to the DA documentation stage.
Yep.
And from that, after that process, everything should be submitted through council.
Yeah, well, you want to know what hurdles are ahead of you before you go too deep into the council process. Like you want to know what the rules, regulations are, what points you might need to, argue or further justify through council, or things that you're submitting or you're asking for a little leniency in some cases. Just be aware, and making sure the client's aware too that we've got some concepts. Here's some things that council might have some issues with, but these are the reasons why we think we might be able to get it through, or we have a sufficient justification for it.
Yeah, so we've gone on and over it a million times through a lot of the episodes, and that's across a lot of people that we work with. But let's start from the beginning. Well, from after concepts. So once the concepts are done, they've called us up and said, "Hey guys, we're stoked with the concepts. What now?" We hear it all the time. It's one of our frequently asked questions. What now? What do we do? First step is we get them in for another meeting. We do that as a team. We get them in, we do a conversation, we sit them down here at the desk, and we start talking to them about their plan set.
Yeah, like sometimes it'll be one of the reasons for that meeting is to go through what has been the accepted concept plans, and go through exactly what they're wanting to get out of the job and how it's been met. But it's also going to be important to, outline what we need to put on our plans for council, and talking points as well that we may not have gone into as deep for the concepts. So once we've got the design and we've got the ideas and this is the direction and the direction's all been accepted, it's like, right, well, let's get into the nitty gritty with your service locations, your window types.
Long are the days gone that, a DA plan is drawn on a napkin. We don't do that. We've stopped doing that. We make sure that we get as much information on our DA sets as humanly possible.
Still see them though.
Yeah. You got. There's got to be a level of ambiguity there. Obviously, you got to make sure that we're selling a story, but we're not locking our guys into anything because obviously.
Oh no, we still see napkin plans.
We do see napkin plans, absolutely. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by the client with the designs. We're not locking them into a specific detail that they don't have to worry about until construction certificate, because the danger of having a DA plan that is too specific is that if they don't do it or if they don't build it like that, it's a DA mod, or they have to go back for a modification, and that's a nightmare. So
the ideal council set of plans has all the information that council need, and that's it.
Yep.
Like there'll be things that we talk about in our meetings that go beyond what council need, but it's more to future-proof it so that we're not backing ourselves into a corner, and that we've thought about everything for the design or that could have an impact on the design. All of that doesn't necessarily need to make it onto the plans either. It's just making sure that we know what's going to happen after the DA is approved. But yeah, ideally, the council set of plans has exactly what council need, and not too much more.
Yep. And it's important for the builders too. So once we do the DA plan set, or once we start the DA process, that's when we start, or we recommend, if we're not looking after the job fully, we recommend getting the builders involved at this point. And if you're using one of our builders, or if you're using your own builder, it's at this point, after this conversation that is had at this table, you go, right, I can take these plans, or I can take this screenshot of these plans to our builders and say, this is what we want.
Yeah, if they haven't been engaged already. Like if you're at this stage, it's like, now's the time for a builder if you haven't already had them involved with the concepts or anything like that.
100% should have been talking to them already.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, if you want something like this is like the cutoff point.
Well, that's it.
Anything later than this, you're just drawing it out a lot longer. But I guess through our period of our DA plan sets, and while they're chatting here, we talk to them about locations of taps, gas points and fittings. These aren't important for council, but these are important for us to be aware of when we go to tell our guys, right? And we put them on our plan sets. I think one of the biggest important things for our clients to know and understand before they come to us is that whatever they tell us in this meeting, and I'm talking window openings, I'm talking colors, finishes, the hue, or I guess the spectrum of color that they're going to paint their outside or their roof. That's important because it goes to BASIX. At the end of the day, once this pre-sub plan has been done, this is the plan set that gets submitted to the BASIX or the NADA system, and that's how we get it assessed. So I think it's important for our clients to be aware that, or anybody's clients that are doing a design, that these are important things to make it onto the plan sets. Fan spaces, if they're putting fans in there, what AC units they're putting in, what finishes they're putting on the floor. This 7-star rating of the BASIX now is just absolutely, like, it's great, it's fantastic, but it's murder. Like it's so hard to design a home, because you have to be aware of what kind of finishes you have on the floor. You have to be aware of how high your windows are off the seal. The seal off the floor. The
amount of detail that the BASIX consultants need is almost, and it can be construction level
information,
details and information that sometimes you won't have at DA stage. I think that's the hardest part about it. There are so many things that you need and to almost lock in at DA stage. I mean, before sometimes those conversations are had, but I guess that's why we have those conversations, why we have that in our pre-submission meeting is because of BASIX. It's at the very least, it's going to start generating those conversations ready for the builder, or before we get into that.
Absolutely, there are some BASIX and others assessors out there who want to be involved with the designing process right from the beginning, and that's like, there's a place for it. Absolutely, there's a place for it, but it's a wild thought to employ another assessor or a BASIX or another person to sit alongside a designer to try and design them. That's why we're trying to integrate the BASIX and the others guys into our teams, while we're trying to design these things to get them more up to scratch. The BASIX in itself is, I think, probably one of the hardest things. It's one of the hardest things to deal with, I think. And I think while it has its place, it's probably the hardest thing when it comes to DA applications, in my opinion. It's dragging things out longer than it should. And while before it was easier to do the BASIX application, while we weren't hunting that 7 stars, Now that we need that 7 stars, I think, my personal opinion, I think the system needs to change to maybe allow for that BASIX report to be done alongside the engineering almost.
Yeah, like almost as a. I think there's a middle ground somewhere there. Like I think the basics, for new builds at the moment, like they can be done, and some of the guys that will work with, they'll say, look, this is what we've currently got. This is what you need to get the 7 stars. I think where the problems come in is when those upgrades or things that we need to put onto the plans become expensive from a build point of view. Again, that you're locking in at the DA stage. So I think that there is merit there for some of that information needed, because you don't want, I guess, to go to your construction certificate and get a 4-star BASIX that then you need to do design changes to get to 7 stars. Then you're going back to.
Well, my question is I think with the when it comes to BASIX and adding them to the DA plan set, how much, in my opinion, how much does it affect the design? Would it even change the DA application? Like, I don't think that the DA, like all of the BASIX things that we can implement, first you need a BASIX assessor that's going to help find the best possible outcome for you. That's not going to charge you 40, 50 grand for, your double glazing and all your bits and pieces. And then is the design, or is the BASIX amendments that are going to happen to the design, is that going to be enough to warrant a DA modification? So
I think where the middle ground is it's like, because if you go through the council process and the design changes, then at the moment council are asking for the BASIX certificate to get changed with it. What I think there needs to be a middle ground is, if you're lodging with a 7-star house and some minor changes happen during the council assessment, I don't think you should need to update the BASIX each and every time. I think it should be conditioned. It's usually, if you're already at 7 stars, the changes you're making to that design, like if they're not drastic, it's still achievable. Like if you slip down to maybe 6.5 or something like that, there are things that you can do to get back up to 7 without making design changes to the house. So that's where I think a conditional approval or something like that could come in to say, like, you've submitted with a 7-star BASIX. A conditional approval is to make sure that the BASIX is still 7 stars, despite these minor amendments. Like even like really small things too. Like sometimes things that improve BASIX, like you submit with 7 stars, you go, okay, for one reason, privacy might be an issue. You got to reduce your window sills or window sizes. Great. That's going to be an improvement to BASIX because the windows are smaller. At the moment, we're still required to get an amended BASIX certificate each time we do this during the council process.
Well, it swings and roundabouts too. Like sometimes the smaller window will affect it in a positive way, but obviously if it's on a kind of southern side, but if it's on a western side where you get a lot of sun, but I mean it would probably negatively affect it if it was on the southern side. There's so many things, like there's so many things that take into account for a BASIX assessor and things like that. And I think because it's such a chunky portion of, I guess, the DA submission stage, I definitely think that there's room for improvement for the application process. I guess from leaving our hands and then getting into the council, because the council will still take a month or so at the moment. They're doing great, so they'll still take a month or so to do it. But I don't think the BASIX changes will affect the design of the house that greatly to warrant a modification. I don't. So that's one of the biggest things that we have to deal with, and particularly with the pre-submission plans. I guess we should clear that up. We call it the pre-submission plans because we find it easier to get through the DA or the complaint development avenue, but they should be called, the development application plans. So we call them pre-submission, should be a development application plans, and then they turn into certification plans or construction plans. It depends on how we go. So I for clarity, we'll just keep with this pre-submission stage. So we do the pre-submission plans. We pay attention to the BASIX when we're doing the when we're doing the conversation here. We talk about the colors that they're going to have. We talk about the finishes on the floor. We talk about, thicknesses of walls, wall profiles, if they're going to have brick, cladding, all that kind of stuff. These are all massive questions that we ask during the pre-submission space. But then we go in a little bit further. We start to engage engineers as well. And I think engineers, there's and engineers are engineers. They're always going to be engineers, right? So they are engineers, right? So at the moment, they're either incredibly expensive or incredibly slow. That's just another sticking point. And again, project managing jobs through the DA process, we're always juggling, expectations with prices and with timeframes.
Yeah, and the thing is with the engineering, it's the best time to get it is once you've locked in your concept plans. The direction that the project's heading in. You're already talking to a builder at that stage. The next thing that you really want to try and find out is to lock in a pretty close estimate from the builder before you lodge any application. You don't want to lodge an application without an estimate, and then the estimate comes back after approval way too high. And usually one of the first questions the engineers will ask you after do you have plans is, do you have engineering? Because that heavily affects their numbers, their whole, everything they do, really.
They always give us an estimated value. Any builder will only ever give an estimated value. They'll never lock themselves into a price, particularly if there's no BASIX and there's no engineering.
Yeah.
And once these are done, then that's when you get your numbers.
Yeah.
And that's what stings. It's what hurts the most. It's the engineering, the beams can be gross. The subsidence could be really bad. You could have some landslip. You could have, Newcastle and Lake Mac, you've got mine subsidence problems, and the guidelines there are huge. There's a massive variance in it. But yeah, I think engineer reports take ideally 4 weeks. We've seen them blow out to 12 weeks. Some of our guys have taken 16 to 18 weeks, which has been brutal. But BASIX reports should also be at the equal time. And these are the two reports that, while we don't need them for DA, they are definitely need for compliant development.
Yeah, and for a builder. Well, the main thing for the builder.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it gives a good opportunity for any design changes to a degree to be had prior to the submission of the DA. So we could get the full DA set plan done. We could get it all done, get the BASIX report, and we could get the engineering report, and then we could kind of find out how much the cost is and see if the house is still in budget. Some clients I know would get a price based on the concepts and get an allowance for the BASIX and the engineering, and the allowance of the BASIX and engineering plus the build might come within budget. But then once those two reports come in, and then all of a sudden you're paying 50-60 grand extra for BASIX because the BASIX certifiers giving you top everything, and then you've got the engineer who's looking after you with incredibly large beams and all of the supports. All of a sudden you're $250,000 over budget. So they're big reports that you need, and they're right at they're at the DA stage. They're right at the pre. We haven't even given it to council yet. They don't even know. But yeah, it's not all doom and gloom though. At the end of the day, once the pre-submission plan conversation's been had, you get a pretty good indication of what the house is going to look like.
I think that's where the whole, I guess the process of the industry overall. There's a lot of demand and expectations from all directions. That the concepts have been accepted. Okay, I want to give this to council, and it's the very next thing that most people want to do with their project is, I've got the concept plans. How long until I get it into council? And I think that's where we've sort of got to finesse or really explain the importance of taking your time sometimes during this phase between accepted concepts and council submission to make sure you're talking to the builders, you're getting the prices by having the engineering done, by having the BASIX done. Because once you've got all of those, you're not going to set yourself up for failure or set yourself up for disappointment ultimately after if you lodge prematurely.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to money too. Yes, it costs money for the engineering and the BASIX, but it also costs money for the development application and the reports needed for it. So, by saving money by getting engineering later, you're also risking spending money by having 2 applications instead of 1.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and when it comes to those reports, there's always pros and cons of it. Like, you can get the reports done early, you can get them all in right. The downfall is the up point is that you'll find out the cost and the value right away. The downside is that the DA could be knocked back, and then we'd have to change it, or we'd have to amend it, and then there'd be amendment fees and things like that. There is a process here, I think, I guess in general, in between the council application planning and the required reports, particularly around the BASIX and the engineering, that there has to be something that has to work appropriately. What it is, I don't know. Like, maybe a prelim BASIX report or maybe a prelim engineering report should be sufficient for a council to tick it off and say yes. Something that's not so expensive, maybe costs half the price, and it can be finalised at CC stage. I think that's a good option. But at the same time, they're not the only reports that we're doing. Like, they're not the only reports. They're the important reports, but this is where you organise your flood reports, which would couple the engineering, and then you'd also look at your mine subsidence reports in the Newcastle and Macquarie spaces. You'd get your bushfire reports. I know some of our poor clients have been hit with Aboriginal heritage reports, arborist reports, and all that kind of stuff. All of that would be kind of snapped up and grabbed all at DA stage. We help at MT Design. We help get those reports, but there are instances where clients would have to get them themselves, or they would have to find them themselves, and they can get quite expensive, and it can be quite a headache to get. It's just it is something that I think most clients need to be aware of, particularly when they're coming in to do the DA plan sets. They need to know that there is a long list of reports that would need to couple the plan set, and it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. Like, you can't, like we spoke about it at the start. Like, these are the reports that we get at the start. These are the things that we talk about. We're aware that there's a flood zone. We're aware that there's a BAL certificate, or a bushfire report.
Basically, it's at the beginning. It's obtaining the reports to find out what more report you need later.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, it's just unfortunately, the process is just so expensive, and like, there's always got to be an expert in the field that has to have their 2 bits. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has to have a report about how to design this house, and everyone wants to get involved super early. Everybody wants to have a say in how this house is designed prior to even going to council. And there's a big flaw there. People are forking out tens of thousands of dollars for some reports if you're having a nightmare of a time, and that might not even give you the house that you want, because there's restrictions on your boundary, there's restrictions on your heritage request, there's restrictions on all of your bits and pieces, and then all of a sudden, someone's in council for 2.5 years fighting heritage because the heritage doesn't like the way it looks in terms of the rest of the precinct. We've got a client now. We're just getting through council now with it. This poor bloke has been, holding costs, paying mortgage prices, all this kind of stuff, simply because heritage didn't like the fact that it had a skillion roof. And so we had to change it to a hip roof. We had to lower the building. We had to adjust the frontage because they didn't like the fact that the garage was too big, and unfortunately these things are unavoidable. And the only way that we can jump onto it first is first by paying people to get involved earlier. And sometimes, if it's normal mum and dad, they don't want to pay that money. They don't want to pay a stupid amount of money to go and talk to someone to say, maybe that.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah. Like, and I mean, with this particular client, we tried to do it. We did the DA. We asked for the DA meeting. We got told no. We said no. We said, hey, we know that there's a heritage issue here. Let's have a chat about it. And they said, no, you'll be sweet. Don't worry about it. Just play on. And then here we are, 2.5 years later, definitely not sweet. And this poor bloke has paid $100,000 in reports and holding fees and back and forth and planners and firing planners and getting new planners. And like, it's for something that can be done on a napkin and submitted, there is definitely a lot of problems that could arise if it's not done properly. And I think there's got to be a little bit of care and maybe a little bit of a shift in the process, in the submission process at the very least, and to put those reports in the right place. I think. And so after we got all of our reports, everything's looking ridgy-dig, everything's looking great. After the pre-submission plan gets done, we got all of our reports. We've put them to the plans. We've got our engineer on board. We've got our BASIX on board. We've got all of our needed reports that we've needed. We've put them on the plans, and then our plans go from a 4 or 5 page concept plan to I think one of our biggest ones was like 48 pages, and that's 48 pages for the DA set, I think it was, and then it could be that big, depends on the detail that we need, but that plan set basically sets the client up for prices, avenues to go through. They can start ordering things. Builders can start throwing numbers at it. They can start getting their team involved and where they want to go. We as a business at NT Design, we help support the builders and any questions that come through. We use standard sizings for a couple of the local window guys around here, which is really cool. And yeah, from that process, we then do the submission.
I think it's important too that the quality of the plans or the quality of any of the reports that you get as well can make a big difference in how smooth your council process is. Like, you don't want it to get knocked back before they even accept it. Like, you want it to be submitted. The council had their initial look and go, yep, cool, we'll send it to the assessing officer and get started. You don't want to go in with subpar documentation to then you're going to get a subpar result. The council are going to be asking more questions than they would have if they had a good set of plans and a good set of reports to go along with it.
Well, they just refuse it now. They don't even muck around with it. They just go, no good, and fix it up, come back.
Yeah.
So it's important to get that information right.
Yeah. Well, like at the end of the day, we want to make council's life easy as well. Like, we want to give them all the reasons why they should approve it. And if that's good plans, clearly marked plans as to what the restrictions are and how they've been met by a quick glance, then it's it's just ticking boxes for them. And same with the reports. Like, if they're asking for say for the statement of environmental effects, like, we'll go through all the council's rules. You want a really good statement to say, here are all your rules, here's what we've done to meet the rules, and this is why we think it should be approved. And if it's a matter of just the council going through and going, look, yes, I agree with that. We've got plans that clearly, they work together.
On the negative side, though, like if we're upfront with it and say, hey, we're breaching this rule, we've got a 10% variance that we're allowed to have. But in that statement, we say, hey, your requirement in the DCP, let's say for the setbacks are, 3 meters, but we're sitting at, 2.7 meters, that's within a 10% variance, and it can be allowed. Obviously, the people, when you're going through a DA process, there is a notification period that everybody around your immediate area gets the opportunity to have a look at what's happening on the outside, not the inside. They cover that, but they get essentially 2 weeks to have their say on a design. So, the statement of environmental effects is something that comes up quite a lot, and you need it for a DA. And what else is the other report we need? You need the waste management for the DA report as well. All good designers or draftees, mobs, that they should be able to help you at least point in the direction of a good planner, or at least be able to organise a SOE or a waste management plan. After the pre-submission plans have been done, we send those off to get cleared by all of our reporters, like the BASIX and the engineers and all the bits and pieces. But it's first important to make sure that we've got all the information that we have and chuck them on the plans. We've got to give all of the people, we've got to give the planners the appropriate information, like the areas and all your bits and pieces. We've got to make sure that the BASIX guys have all of their colours and all their noise that we get while we're doing the meetings here on the table. And then the engineers work their magic with all of our DWGs. That's why it's such an important process. The concept's the fun bit. I can do the concepts every day. That's not a problem. It's the pre-submission conversation that, unfortunately, it's a little bit dry, but it's the most important. It's the most important conversation, because that's what we're going to get through council. And it is just what it is. You just can't get around it. And once obviously the juicier the docs are, the better these outside consultants can give a better answer. If those consultants have not a clear indication of what you're doing with the house, they're not going to give you the best result that they can have. And that's where it's important to make sure that, in that pre-submission stage, or that DA conversation, we need to make sure that all of the information's right and available. And then from that, we build up a good plan set that we can give to council, coupled with the appropriate reports, supported by all the things that need to support the application to go through. And then when it goes to council should tick and flick. And the better those plans are, the faster they get in, the faster they get out. And
I think the main thing that the pre-submission plans are really there for, the concepts are there with the information that you need to be able to get a good concept plan together, to understand what the project is looking like, what the design of it really is really what that concept area is. Getting the information then from the clients, from whoever we need to get the next set of plans, because that's the next big stage, and the next set of plans, they're the ones that you can use. They're the ones that you can take to all these consultants. It's really the bridging the gap between concept to this is something you can now use and give to people, and start getting some more accurate answers about cost, about ordering the reports and the BASIX, getting the answers from the concept. It's now got the information you need.
How many times we've had something dropped past our desk to say, hey, we need now a construction certificate, and the DA plans have been done so half-assedly that we almost have to do a DA mod because they're just so non-compliant.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that brings up another important point. But concepts are concepts. When you get to the pre-submission and the submission plans, a very important thing is your BCA compliance, and making sure that everything that you're designing and drawing is compliant to the Australian standards, to the Building Code of Australia, because council aren't assessing the BCA compliance generally.
A stair height, roof height to the top of the toe, and
council are checking their DCP, their rules. They'll to a degree look at some of these things if it's really obviously incorrect or not possible or something's going on. We've had cases where DAs have been approved. We pick up the plans to do the construction certificate that someone else has drawn, and we're going, okay, we'll redraw it. This is what you need. Actually, this section doesn't work. We have to change it to get compliance. What we have to do to change it is it's up to the certifier really to go, well,
I'm
this
happy with
doesn't,
that.
yeah, well, this doesn't match the DA stamped plans. First question is why is it changed? It's like, well, we had to because of compliance, but sometimes it won't matter. Sometimes they'll say it's big enough of a change that you need to go back to council for them to stamp the new set of plans, and that's it. That's a disaster. Like
The amount of times it's happened, it's just wild. Like setbacks, sometimes the setbacks aren't marked properly. The areas aren't marked properly. These are all big things that will actually really affect the design. And because if the areas are not marked properly for a whole plan set, the floor space ratio that you have to build within can be out. And if that floor space ratio is out far enough, it's not compliant. And you have to change it. And if you're changing the DA plan set after they've been approved, then you're going back into mod territory or modification territory and you're going back into council. You're paying extra fees. You're changing everything gets done again. So it's just it's important. It's absolutely imperative that you get a good pre-submission or a DA plan set done.
I think it fundamentally just comes back to good design. Good design is a compliant design, whether it's with council or whether it's the be all or end all is Australian standards, building codes of Australia. They're non-negotiables. Like you can get as far as you want down the line, but if you're not compliant for fire separation or the stair head heights, ceiling heights.
Ceiling heights is huge.
Light and ventilation, things like that come out and they're checked at construction certificate stage by the certifiers, because the certifiers are there to go, right, this complies with all the standards it needs to comply with. That's not what council are doing.
No,
which they shouldn't. They shouldn't. Like
they'll be there forever.
Process.
They'll be there forever. But like keeping it, like I know, like it's such a broad spectrum, particularly with the DA space. But like keeping it strictly within the DA, we'll talk about the CC another day because that's another beast in itself. But to keep it strictly within that DA space, I guess the take home points are there are going to be more costs. There will be extra costs with extra external consultants. There will be extra things that we need to pay attention to. It doesn't matter how much you're aware of it. There will always be something that, council want to see something extra of. It's going to happen. Timeframes are always a massive FAQ that we always get. How long's council going to take? How long's a piece of string? Well, we're getting told all the time that council are doing better. We're seeing council are doing better, but at the end of the day, they've got 1 million applications, maybe not 1 million, but they've got thousands of applications that they're dealing with a day. They're doing better and they're getting through them faster. But, we're looking at turnaround times at the moment of about a month, maybe 2-ish. On a good day.
Yeah, and I mean you'll get those cases where you're 4 weeks into council and council asks for a report, and that report might take 6 weeks.
That's happened too. That's happened too. Like there's Hunter Water that we have to get, and Hunter Water is a massive one. Mine subsidence, if we're breaching the guideline 1, mine subsidence rules, they can send it off for
40 days.
A 40-day report, and that's because they're having 2 people have a look at the same thing. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the reports are there to make sure the house is safe and it's not going to fall down around you. But they are needed and required. But it doesn't matter how much you prep for it and you're ready for it. Murphy's rule is, if anything can go wrong, it's probably going to go wrong. So, I think clients should be aware that timeframes are timeframes. While we do our best to make sure that our timeframes are as fast as possible, we can't possibly make sure that the outside consultants are going to be moving as fast as what we're going to move. So timeframes will take their bit. I know our plans take about 4 weeks as a full DA plan set. I know most consultants will take anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, hopefully. Everything moving nicely and smoothly, a DA plan set from the time they're sitting at this table and by the time it goes into a submission after seeing the planners and all the bits and pieces, should be comfortably around about 6 to 8 weeks, should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
And anything longer than that, is a problem because people are dragging their feet. Anything shorter than that, you just want to make sure you're double checking their reports. I think you want to make sure that they've captured everything. You want to make sure that the design is right, the compliances are right, all the reports are supporting everything that it needs to support. If those reports aren't clear enough and they get sent to council, they're going to knock them back. They're going to knock them back, and it's going to cost a fortune to fix. So in terms of cost, time, and everything like that, I think being aware and at least armed with enough information pre-submission is the goal, and that's all the way up to at least getting a rough estimate from a builder.
I think the main thing is it takes time. I think that's the biggest thing from being in this process and working with clients through this process for so long. I think understanding that things will take time, but there are many different people involved to get it ready to go into council, and to get an accurate price from council,
and to get it right.
Otherwise, it would just be really making sure you're double and triple checking your concept plans and that the design is what you're after, because from that point forward, it's a lot harder and more expensive to make any adjustments to those plans after that point. Like from there, you've got your pre-submission plans. You're no longer just changing your roof line on your concept plans. You're changing your BASIX, your engineering, whatever else. If you're at the town planning stage, some of their reports, like
you want to move a window, you want to change a sliding door, you want to change something. That's a massive change. It's not just we're just gonna flick this door.
It takes us nothing. We can do it, but it's everyone else who needs to go. Okay, well, you've made this change. Now I need to make this change on my end. So, I guess that's one of the reasons why the first thing we really do is with our pre-submission meetings is let's have a look at your concepts. Are you happy? Do you have any other questions? This is what we're doing. This is what we've achieved.
Now is the time to change something.
Ask you questions, please.
Now is the time to change, because if you're gonna change it later, it's going to cost you a fortune through council.
Yeah,
and it's not even our cost. It's you change this later, it's going to cost you heaps.
Yeah,
heaps. So 100%. There you go, guys. The DA process, it's a tricky one, it's a sticky one. Having a good team behind you, making sure the communications are clear, making sure all your docs are right. The take homes from this one, hit us with any questions. Please reach out. Happy to have a conversation, particularly around the DA space. We'll talk about the construction certificate on another app. Definitely keep an eye out, because these are the best episodes and these are the juiciest ones, because these are the biggest deals that you have to worry about. Thanks for listening to this week's app of The Lounge. To make sure you don't miss out on the next episode, hit subscribe. We'd love to get the message out to more homeowners like you. Make sure you leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next app.